We're delighted to announce the return of the Office Management Show, which is our twice yearly event taking place on Thursday, the 28th of September in London. I'm so sorry to anybody that listens internationally. I wish I could get you all here, but this is an exhibition and conference that we hold for office management professionals, and we would love for you to be there if you can join us. It takes place throughout the day from 9:30 to 5:30. You can come along at any time, meet with me and the team, connect with other office managers. Maybe there'll be listeners of the pod as well. You might even meet some of our previous podcast guests. Join in on the CPD accredited seminars. Yeah, there's so much to do, so much to grab from the event, to connect, learn and enjoy. So register for your free tickets. More information is at www.theofficemanagementgroup.com/the-show, and we really hope to welcome you then. This is the Office Manager Diaries, a podcast all about the highs and the lows of professionals in office management around the world. We'll delve into their career journeys and diaries, where they'll share their stories, tips for success, and only things office managers understand. Enjoy, and please remember to give us a follow. Welcome back to another episode of the Office Manager Diaries. It's your host Hannah Gray here, and I am really delighted this week to share that we have got not just one but two incredible office management professionals on the pod who work at the same company. So very, very happy to have them both on. We've been talking about this for a little while. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Kate Turgoose and Wendy Smith of Funding Circle. Hi ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you both doing?
Pretty good, thanks. Carving out some time to talk to you. Been looking forward to this for a while. So hopefully we'll have some interesting bits and pieces for you.
Oh, I would imagine so. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I've been to your office. I've seen it. It's incredible there. Obviously, Funding Circle is a well-known brand. So I'm really looking forward to delving in a little bit more about you both and your roles, your career history and everything here. So let's get started. Can you tell us, please, both a little bit about your roles at Funding Circle, what you do there, and how you work together to support the business, please?
Oh, okay, I'll start. Hi, I'm Kate. I'm the Workplace Experience Manager for Funding Circle. I'm basically the boots on the floor, so I take care of the general day-to-day office management, which might seem kind of like big when if you've seen the size of this office, it's like whoa. So we run a hybrid environment, and the numbers change and flux any day. So there could be days where it's pretty quiet, but then there are days where it's like everybody is here. So you kind of have to handle that, really.
Wendy speaking. I'm Head of Workplace Services, so Kate and I are the Workplace Services team. There's two of us running quite a tight, well-organised ship, hopefully.
Yeah.
Kate mentioned size. We've got 2 floors here, about 60,000 square foot of space, and we support, on a busy day in the office, a good sort of 400 odd staff. That varies in hybrid. So Kate's boots on the ground are fairly frequently tapping around, gets her steps up, put it that way. I tend to look after the sort of higher level strategic stuff, planning, thinking ahead, the bigger projects and things, and then that filters through into what Kate does on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So,
I'm the brawn, you're the brains.
Oh, I don't know about that. But between the two of us, we cobble together and make a pretty good one. So that's the idea.
I would agree. And, for our listeners, you can't see them on screen, but they are sat in the same room and they are a formidable duo, let's put it that way. And as I say, I've seen their offices and how they're run. And it is that thing, Kate, back to what you were saying, where it just fluctuates so much and you've just kind of got to roll with the punches day to day, because you can't manage or control or even predict what's happening tomorrow in a normal office management role. And the challenge of the hybrid is that you can't predict who's coming in. If you've got your more tricky characters, let's say, coming in on a certain day and you don't know about it, your day might just change a little bit compared to other days when those trickier characters aren't in, and it just can change so much in terms of the numbers, the volume of work and everything. So yeah, it's very interesting times for people in these roles indeed. So what are your backgrounds where your careers are concerned prior to getting into office management, or perhaps it was the first position for you? Tell us a little bit about that. And what continues to keep you both in this role, in this profession?
For me, Kate, so I generally started in government-based like administrative roles years ago, and then kind of like came into the private sector, and I managed to basically talk my way into an office management role. It just seemed like, because I didn't want to have like a standard administrative career, that the idea of just being like a typist or just being a PA, which, okay, PA has its challenges. I couldn't do it. I tried. I just need something that's a little bit interesting every day. I can't bear the idea of just sitting there and just doing the same thing every day. That doesn't kind of entertain me.
That variety.
Yeah. Variety, absolutely. I mean, so yeah, sometimes I would like to be a little bit more organised, but having said that, the way my brain works, it's just like I'm good at reacting to things as they happen. It's if I had like, this is my diary and I do this at this time and this at this time, I'm like, no, it doesn't work for me. Can't do it. And like I said, it is the variety that makes me stick with office management for sure.
Wendy's turn. I've been at Funny Circle. This is my 10th year, so yeah, it feels like I didn't have a past life, but I did. I started out in retail management, if I can remember that far, and I moved into sales, which is actually a really good grounding for a lot of things, but I hated it. I realised quite quickly if we use sales jargon, I'm a farmer, not a hunter. So I like building the relationships and the organisational side of the role. So I worked for a company many years ago who had a terrible sales effort. Not just me, I hasten to add, but he was kind of saying, what do we need to do? Our organisation isn't working, and this isn't happening, that's happening. And I said, well, you need to do this and you need to do that. And so I flipped in that company from the sales to the back office, built their back office infrastructure, and then kind of progressed from there. I had 15 years in private equity before I came here. I know it sounds like I'm only 21, but yeah, I have my long checkered past.
We're all just 21, don't worry. We're all 21.
Yeah, every year, absolutely. I don't have any candles anymore. I burn the office down. But the private equity time was challenging. And again, cut my teeth there with proper office management, did quite a lot of PA work as well. But if you can survive that environment, you can probably survive most. And basically, I wanted to work for a company where I liked what the company did, and I didn't have that feeling in private equity, making rich people richer. So I looked around, and it was around the time of lots of tech startups, and it all seemed really exciting and engaging and interesting. And so I made the jump to Funding Circle. And yeah, when I joined, I was number 70, and we're now 800 and something plus in the UK. So we've grown massively in that time. And when I started, we didn't have a reception desk. I built it out of a flat pack. I sat there for 6 months because we didn't have anywhere else. I used to do the IT starters and cabling under the desks and all of that stuff. So I've kind of cut my teeth at Funding Circle right from the off, and that's part of what keeps me here, is that constantly changing landscape, and having been with the business for such a long time, I'm so invested. My husband jokes if he cut me in half, it'd say Funding Circle through the middle. So because it's it's been such a long time, but it's a great place to be. Yeah, and always a challenge.
Yeah. And very ingrained in you, which I guess is what your husband's alluding to by saying if he cut you in half. But it's funny. So going back on a few things there. So the sales background, I think there's been a few people on the podcast now who have had a sales background, and it's given them the grit and the kind of confidence to have the conversations that we have to have in office management roles now. Would you agree, Wendy, that that's been the same for you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you have a lot, it's a much more pressurized environment, working to targets and deadlines and those kinds of things. So it sets you up well when you're working on projects that have, deliverables and timescales that you have to adhere to and that kind of thing. And to your point around dealing with difficult customers, although I would say my private equity days probably helped me there as well. But what it makes you realize is, be prepared, know your stuff, have faith in what you do, be your subject matter expert, and just be solid and stand your ground with things. Yeah, it's a good grounding for sure.
Yeah, really agree with that one. And the private equity piece, so was that in one company as office manager, operations manager, or did you move around that sector?
I did 3, I think, over the 15 years. So sort of, 4 or 5 years at each. And all 3, I would say, were kind of developmental roles of taking taking a place and building the function for them, not having a strong background already. The first one I did, I started as PA/office manager, and that came through. And then I realised as time went on, it was the office management piece that sparked me, really was what engaged me. So I graduated through in that respect. And when I moved on, I moved into office management roles more than the PA side. Yeah, but it's a different world entirely from where we are now, particularly when we were a smaller startup.
Yeah, agree. And it's like you were referring to, and also what you said, it's that grassroots thing where you're under the desk dealing with cables and, dealing with flat packs and everything. And I think it's so grounding, even if you get to COO or head of people or whatever your aspirations are from this office management role that listeners might be in now, to go through those motions and to put yourself in those situations, because it's all part and parcel of the role, and it's all part and parcel of supporting a business effectively from the back of house. So
100%, because it's if you've come up through from that grassroots level, particularly at the same company, but not necessarily, but you understand the minutiae of things that go into running an office, and if you've involved yourself in the grunt work, perhaps if we could call it, you have a better understanding of the bigger picture, I think.
yeah, absolutely. So what does a typical day look like for you both? And I know you've touched on it, Kate, where it's like there are no 2 days that are the same, and that's why you love the role, the variety. But if you could wrap it up into this most typical day, maybe over the course of a week or a month, what sort of things are involved in that for you?
Gosh, like I said, there is no typical day, and that's why we're in office management, because we handle that. But God, that's a really, really hard question.
I can jump in a bit.
Perhaps please do.
When talking again, and to underscore, we all know there's no typical day in running an office, but I think perhaps a little bit more so in my world, I will always, it's the self-organisation piece, I suppose, and the disciplines you put yourself through to be efficient. So, perhaps I'll start with what I do the day before is always end of the day with that little roundup of myself, what's got done today, what did I need to do, and more so plan for the next day. It's the real basics, isn't it? Check those emails, check the Slack messages. We work on Slack here. Just keep in touch with all the stakeholders, the things that you're working on, and make sure you're not dropping the ball with anything. We have quite a few sort of weekly meetings in here, just make sure we stay in touch with the broader business and what's going on. Kate and I always download together at least once a day, whether I'm at home or I'm in the office. So we stay very well connected. And I think really, though, we run a ticketing system here for things that are logged. So you can guarantee half our day or Kate's day will be spent dealing with like HVAC queries. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's this, it's
the
that.
bane of my existence.
Yeah. And then there's so obviously catching up on the emails and the actions and things you need to do. Really, with hybrid, the challenges are around predominantly the office environment and how we keep it consistent for everybody. And so it is a lot checking the tickets. Kate does a lot of DSE assessments and things like that, so keeping on top of all of those. It's just really making sure we're plugged into all the communication channels so we can get a fair picture of what's going on that day that we need to address. I think it's probably that's a boring answer, isn't it? But that's kind of the way.
I'm obsessed with Jira. It's just like as soon as I can click off a Jira ticket, it's just like yes.
Yeah.
That's the system you use.
Yeah, we use Jira because we're a technology business, so all our engineering team use Jira for their ticketing, and we said, we like that. Can we have it for workplace services? So it gives us a bit of an audit trail. And I was looking at something the other day. We've between us, I say between us, I use the term loosely. I probably do I'm just going to do something with my fingers there. I have a tiny, tiny amount of them. Kate does a bulk of this. We've closed about 750 tickets this year. So you sort of extrapolate that over the time. That's just the stuff that people bother to put on a ticket, not all the other bits and pieces. So, yeah, so that's the kind of structural bits we look at, isn't it?
Yeah.
That way.
Just keep the office running, keep people happy.
And it's so clever to use a system. So I know Jira from working in tech companies as well, and the developers and the IT support people used a lot of that. But it's so clever to do it because when you sit back and someone's like me is a pain in the ass and says, what do you do? What does a day look like for you? To be able to throw stats like that, we've had 750 tickets this year for workplace services, is huge. And, we're just over halfway through the year, going into sort of Q3 now, aren't we? But it's really staggering when you start to. I did an exercise at JP Morgan where I looked at how many emails I had, and my boss did the same. And we worked out that it was on average something like one email every 4 minutes between us, or like even bigger than that. I think that was maybe just me, and she had higher. It was insane. Um, and it just helps you to look back and go, we have so much value, we do so much, and here's the evidence. Like you say, Wendy, it's the stuff that's not on those tickets as well that you can't necessarily compute and put into facts and figures, but to have some of that is really, really handy. So can you now share for us an interesting or unique aspect of your office management roles that many people may not be aware of?
That is actually quite challenging, because I don't know that we do anything particularly outstanding or different or anything else like that, which is probably a really boring answer, but it goes back to those 750 tickets, I suppose. We're so very busy with things. We do try to, the JIRA thing is a good example of thinking of something that isn't typical. How can we make it work for us? Referencing an audit trail and all those kind of things. We do, Kate's brilliant at thinking outside of the box with, initiatives and incentives and different things that we can do here. And I knew Kate from my network before she joined us. And if I can say it here, I might preempt something later. Kate was your first Office Manager Award winner. So I snaffled her after that, basically. Yeah. I had my eyes on her for a while in my network. And when I knew I wanted to hire another experienced manager, that's my first thought. But one of the things I say it's just really about is like just thinking of different things, fun things, cool things that we can do. We're a fintech. We're an informal business, although we're very formal in the way that we work and get things done and professional. So there's some of the Kate's ideas have been ace for things like that. So that's, I would say, perhaps those kinds of things you've done. Yeah.
And do you have any examples to share on some of these initiatives as well that might inspire other office managers?
Well, things like your book club things and all the different things you bring in for socials and all the work you do with. We have pillar groups here, like we have a charity group and a Women at FC, and let's talk about heritage and that kind of thing. And now Circle of Pride, yes. Which you're a huge advocate for. Yeah. So they can give you, I can think, your social with the drag queens and things like that.
I totally forgot about that one.
Please share.
Okay, so so how to describe this? So it was for I can't even remember what it was for, but we had like a big drag queen show in our hub. So basically we've got this space downstairs, which is huge. We kind of use it for like our bigger events, bigger meetings, that sort of thing. Basically, you kind of walk into my storage room behind our old reception desk and there's like two drag queens getting ready. And I'm just like, okay, this is great. You don't expect that in a standard office, I can tell you that. And we ended up doing like lip sync battles, and I am the crowned lip sync champion for Funding Circle. I have a plastic tiara to prove it.
So you're multi-award winning.
I have to say, right, I'm going to have to get her own trophy cabinet this way, her own tiara rack.
I've got a couple of people who are eyeing up my tiara, I'll tell you that.
I can believe that.
So is there like a 2.0 of Lip Sync Funding Circle battle coming?
We've got to make it happen.
See, it's a good job I'm here, because Kate will forget all the awesome things she does. Right? But, so
I take it for granted. I really do.
I don't. So that's cool. But thank you. So it was so successful, that was so much fun. We thought, like, we try to have monthly socials for our circlers, as we call them, and every so often we have a bit of a bigger one. So September, Kate's organised an amazing karaoke session. We can't share too much because we haven't had it yet, but I think, the comms are going out, so I think the tiara will be on again.
So I will fight for that tiara, I swear. One of the guys, it was actually inspired. I was just like, where I sit, I'm really close to the sales team, and they were like month end, and they're a bit like, it gets a bit chaotic at month end, I'm not gonna lie. And one of the guys literally you know, he hits his targets, he's well happy, and he's just sat there at his desk singing, and he's got a really good singing voice. So I sat there thinking to myself, I'm like, hang on, why have we not done karaoke yet? And then within like 2 hours, I had like that social sorted. I went to him and went, thanks for the inspiration. He went, what are you talking about? And I was just like, you'll see.
Did he connect the dots when you actually had it and come back to you and go, now
Yeah.
I know, or did you? Yeah.
Yeah, basically. He was just like, oh, that's what you were doing. I was just like, yep.
Okay, so it's probably then, to wrap that question up, things like just the unknown events and the idea creation that people just don't realize is part of our role, just being creative, being inspired by the things going on around us to keep the culture together, to keep the entertainment there, to keep the office functioning. There's so many things, it's so multifaceted. So yeah, I'll round that off if I have your permission to do in that way. Here's my tip for this week's episode of the Office Manager Diaries. The ceiling isn't the limit in these roles. I'm often asked by people, where do I go from here though? Everybody's kind of saying to me that this is it. There's nowhere really else to go in this office management role in the company. And I completely disagree. Sometimes you will be limited and you will be restrained and restricted by the size and the growth of the company. And that I completely accept. So if you are like me and you are very ambitious, you may have to make that difficult decision at one point to leave that business if there really is no growth there. But in a lot of cases, it's actually very much about the remit and the responsibilities that you have and how you strategically align with your business to better support them, to better enable them to reach their goals and their objectives and their missions and their values and all these other things that help a business establish themselves, that help a business continue to grow, that help a business to maintain the services or supplies that they're putting out there to the world, that makes them profitable, that makes them meet the missions of the service they are striving to support or supply. Because again, when you're thinking about charities, they're not necessarily there for profit, they're there for service, for example. So when you're looking at this and you're considering your career, I would always start with a list about what I enjoy, what gives you that wonderful butterfly satisfaction kind of feeling in your role. What do you excel in? And what are your ambitions? What do you want to feel in the next few years? What do you want to feel like you are achieving, you have achieved? I always talk to people in our training sessions in the office management course and one-to-one training and otherwise in seminar sessions that roles like COO are a really wonderful track and trajectory to get on if you want to grow in your role and you want to be more senior, you want to get those lovely pay rises and develop and manage teams, because it really naturally bleeds in from an office management position where you have such diversity and remit and responsibilities in your office management role, and often where you may have been doing budgeting and procurement and accounting and HR management and IT operations, compliance, legal, etc., and having your hand in all of those different pies, to step up and then manage all those functions is a really nice route to go to. And that's certainly the one that I was interested in before I set up the office management group. But also things like HR and people management. If you really enjoy that aspect of your office management role, that might be the route to go into and start looking at CIPDs and so on. It might be that you love procuring and doing contract management. So being head of procurement in a bigger business like JP Morgan and RBS and so on, had whole departments. So if you really enjoy that and you want to focus on that, you might want to go into building or facilities management where you're stepping out of the tenanted floor and you are running the building rather than that kind of tenanted demise. There are so many different avenues. Health and safety officer, you might just want to be dedicated to health and safety because you love it so much and you're a health and safety geek just like me. So the ceiling is not the limit in these roles. Please don't ever let anybody tell you that it is, and good luck. So can you now share something from your Office Manager Diaries, please, or as we dub it, a you won't believe it but moment?
Well, I can think of a few, but I'm not sure how safe they are for broadcast. But the funniest one, I remember we had an incident where we were called to the bathrooms, the gents' bathrooms, in lieu of some incident had occurred. And of course, being females, we never want to go in the gents' bathroom, but it is kind of part of the gig. We sent the maintenance guys in first because we were chicken, basically, and we were kind of watching from afar. The door was pushed open and he kind of recoiled in horror and stepped back, like, oh my God, it's everywhere. And then he sort of stopped and he got closer, and actually the toilet had been blocked by an entire chocolate cake that had been, some reason, either dropped or we don't know whether someone went in for a secret, chocolate cake session, had a bit and then flushed the rest of the toilet. We still to this day have no idea how that happened, but I suppose the silver lining there was it was a cake, so it wasn't quite as bad to deal with as we thought. But yeah, that one foxed us for a while, trying to figure out how, why, who, and more importantly, why waste an entire chocolate cake?
What a waste. It like, I'm sure it wasn't, but my head just goes to the place of, was it a hash cake? And they're like, crush.
Well, we didn't. I have to say, we didn't try it.
I'm glad you did. Oh my goodness, that is just so random. I love it. Thank you. Wendy, Kate, what about you?
I'm not going to even say where this happened, but I was basically just doing the rounds and trying to kind of just tidy up, keep things nice and neat and tidy. And during this, I managed to find not one, not two, but 3 pairs of underpants. And I was just like, hang on a second, why the hell? And in fact, no. I just stood there and I was just like, I'm not even going to ask why. It was just like, luckily, clean underpants. But I'm just like, why are they left in the office? Why? And it was just like, I must understand this. And I ended up in like this super veiled Slack out like that. If you're missing some items of clothing, then chances are they're with me. Just hint, hint, and then left a picture of like an emoji of pants. And I was just like, the whole thing just went.
It is amazing what you find, like when people have left the company or you have a big tidy up. We've gone through a big consolidation process, so we've cleared pedestals finally, the banes of our life. But it's amazing what you find in them, that people, A, why'd you bring that to work in the first place? And B, why'd you leave it here for us to deal with when you've left the company? But yeah, pants is up
I
there.
had the set, like, Kate shuddered then about the thought of clearing out pedestals, and up there with aircon as one of the banes of the office management life and the role. But JP Morgan, where you'd have directors, MDs, as we call them, in offices, managing directors in offices, and the amount of time and like the longevity that they had been at the company for, you're talking 10, 15, 25 years for some of them, and those pedestals would have just followed them in every office move. And yeah, not only did we find a shitload of money, which was great, and obviously we gave it to charity or whatever, but yeah, just some very odd things. And we did actually find, I won't say too much just in case JP come after me, but we did find some sexual support things in there, like, in a packet, let's just say that.
It all comes part of the gig, doesn't it? I think I'd love to. Maybe I shouldn't wish for this. So I'd love to find the thing that might actually shock us one day or surprise us to the extent that we haven't before. But maybe I should be careful what I wish for there.
Chocolate cake in a toilet is pretty impressive.
That's pretty up there.
Yeah.
I was going to say that. It is up there because it's just so random. Yeah, I mean, if you do have any further incidents, please come back on the pod and share. So, what would you say are the biggest challenges for you at present at Funding Circle and in your office management roles, and how are you managing those?
Again, it's the hybrid model and not knowing how many people to expect. I mean, we've got the data to back it up now, and we generally know when our busier days are going to be, so I can like mentally and physically prepare myself for that. But there's been a drop-off on certain days that I didn't see coming. So again, it's just having that flexibility to just handle whatever's going to come through the door at any kind of given time, really.
I think I'd agree with Kate there. Hybrid is, we fully embraced it, and I think that's great. And it's, the flexibility that it brings is fantastic. But it does present challenges for us to keep an optimum level of service, I suppose, with things. When you're ordering things in, or when you're trying to do an event, you're just not knowing who's going to show. Training is another thing, you know, you sort of, we've got fire marshal training coming up, for example, and it's really been challenging to get people to step up, because with hybrid, it's no good having your quorum of 10 people that you had before, potentially, because they might not be here on the day of an incident. So that's been quite challenging, is how do we cover that? How do we fix this in hybrid and manage it effectively? So those kinds of things are probably most prevalent right now, aren't they? Just, you know, we've fully embraced it. It's going really, really well. You've got the bell curve of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And in some ways it's great, because then you've got Monday and Friday. You can crack on with all those things in the office when there's not presence. So that's a really good part of hybrid. Yeah, that's exactly that. So, but otherwise, it's that flex piece, just making sure we can deliver, by extension to our suppliers as well, you know, our cleanings team and those kinds of things. It's challenging for them, our catering function that we have. So it's just managing that expectation around what we can provide as well, reasonably. And I think probably lots of people are in that boat right now.
100% they are. And it's the stock and supplies. Again, I've been to your office, I've seen your kitchen, and so many people now, particularly compared to 5, 10 or so years ago, are providing more of a pantry service and alcohol on tap and things like that, which are all perks and benefits that I believe are a great part of supporting well-being in some aspects, making sure people eat and drink, but not necessarily alcohol, but also that social aspect, that cultural aspect, and so on. But it's really challenging for people, especially if you have the fresh food element, to manage that, and it has taken a lot of people a while. I also love what you said there, Wendy, about the fire marshal or warden, depending on what term you go with in your offices. But so many people, and it's a topic on the portal that's come up many times, particularly when people started going back to the offices, and many times my clients, when we're talking about health and safety, is what is that ratio? What does that look like? What's that number for first aiders and fire marshals to get the coverage in place? And it changes all the time, because you have joiners, leavers, people might change their pattern. It's a real goalpost moving one. And as is always the challenge, even before hybrid working, trying to get people, like you say, to step up and take and assume those roles. No one wants to do it, and we need them. So yeah, I agree. Lots of challenges there. So what do the next few years look like for you both? And are there any particular goals that you have within your careers?
So my goal is more towards like the DSE side of things. So I do them regularly with everybody in here at Funding Circle, but I really want to focus on like a specific, like a niche area, as it were, to look at like women's health, because I think it's something that's like drastically overlooked with a standard DSE, because there's just so many kind of like health aspects that just aren't kind of taken into account right now. So we've got like, obviously pregnancy kind of comes into it, but there's more to it than that. And we've got women who are approaching, like myself, menopause, and that comes with a whole bunch of different like health things. I want to be able to provide the safety and comfort that women require, and really take into account the full scope of that.
Jumping on that, I mentioned earlier, we have lots of different pillar groups here, and Women at Funding Circle is one of them. And I've joined that latterly as an ambassador to sort of talk about, again, more about menopause in the workplace. So, you know, I think it is quite a prevalent thing. We've done a lot more research on it, diligence on it, and something Funding Circle is really great at is the wellness aspect of things. We do an awful lot here to help people stay healthy, and not just mental health, but physical health. So that's something that's obviously of an interest to me. As Kate mentioned, we're of a certain age, so can speak from really valid personal experience and turning that into something positive for other people in the business. So we're doing a lot of work on that, and that's something I'd like to develop as well. And I think, and generally, just see how hybrid continues to evolve over the next year or two, and we'd like to make some changes to our office that we've figured out. We did some workplace analysis earlier in the year that was really good at cementing what we thought we needed to change here. So we've got a big raft of things, improvements we want to make to the office space itself. You've been really complimentary about our office, Hannah. Thank you. This is sort of an 8.5-year-old fit out now, and for me, I shouldn't say this, but I get bored of it. I'm jaded by it, because I feel like, God, this is when we were a startup, and it is a very different business now. And with hybrid, there's a lot of changes we can make to really make it hyper suited to that kind of work environment. So we've got some quite exciting plans we can't really talk about just yet, maybe next time. Some big projects that we'll hopefully Kate and I will be working on to make the office an even better place to be over the next year or two.
And leading on nicely from that, how do you keep up with the ever-changing demand on office management and this ever-changing world of offices and how they're used there as well? So you've hinted at this project, which I'm not going to ask you to elaborate on any further, but we've talked about the stock and suppliers piece already. Is there anything else that you've struggled with, and how you're learning from that, or what you've learned so far in this new world we're still learning to understand?
I would say a higher level perhaps is what I've really been not forcing myself to do, but making time to do, because we're always too busy to do anything outside the BAU, but is to get on a lot of webinars and seminars and really use my network to find out what are other companies doing, how are they doing it. Hybrid's a challenge because it's still new for everybody, and talking to my peers, I kind of realised we're actually quite at the forefront of what we're doing here by fully embracing it and making, coming into the office 2 to 3 days a week and those kind of things. So I think for me, my role is being plugged into that communication network that I've got and using all of those resources to just fact find. And there's no such thing as a silly question, right? That particularly I've found over the years with OMP and other sort of forums and things, we're a really good community at sharing knowledge and ideas, and we should fully embrace that, I think, in these sort of quite uncertain times as well with everything that's going on. So that's been my sort of feeling lately of focusing on that and getting that external information and networking going.
Not particularly, because I just keep things working here. It's definitely more of a high level kind of thinking. I think I'm mostly concerned for companies that are actually forcing people back into the office space. Now, that kind of goes against me being an office manager and all of that, because, I want people in the office, but no, you can't force them after basically 2 years in confinement. People's feelings have changed towards the office space, and I've heard people going, "Oh yeah, we just need more of this, more of that, more of that," and I'm just like, no. You need to look at your office as like a destination. It's something that people want to come to. It's important. You've got to basically treat an office, and especially an office of our size, it's almost like a little town. There are villages with less people than are in our office, and you've just got to just make it interesting, really.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that's a really good point. I mean, the destination office is bandied around a lot, right, at the moment, particularly with hybrid, but it is fundamentally correct. And it's, as you mentioned, Hannah, it's great to have the perks. We get delivered in lunch and subsidised lunches twice a week. We've got a barista here, which we've had since moving into this office. It's part of our culture. God forbid we ever say we might take the barista away. Lo and behold. But it is quite challenging to sort of think about all those things. And I think Kate mentioned, that there's not much that's, on our radar to do or what's sort of been her focus. But say one thing that Kate is ace at, and that generally office managers are really good at, and we should value this more, is that anecdotal feedback that you get from your customers, which is for us, our circlers and, your staff. So never undervalue never underestimate the value of that feedback that you just get. Kate's here every day. She's super reliable, such a safe pair of hands. And, all office managers, I think, are in a really unique position that you get to interact with everybody in the business at different levels, different teams. And that's a really valuable resource that I think, if you give any advice to people, that's how to see it. Use that value, use that resource, because they're your customers, as much as they're a pain in the arse some of the time, there's a lot of good ones
All
there.
of them. There's just a fair few, especially when you've got the size you have, the drop dead Freds, as we've referred to on the podcast before. But
yeah, we
it's my favourite.
we have our I know we're not supposed to swear, but we do have our shit list that we update on a regular basis.
You say you're not supposed to swear. You can. We are not for children. Kids, if you're listening, tune out. You don't care about office management yet.
You got Potty Mouth Smith on the podcast.
I was about to say, in real life, that's usually me.
We have a good old rant between
Yeah.
us in our safe space, as we always say.
Yeah, it's the safe space, isn't it? Yeah, I love that. So you mentioned and hinted at it earlier when you essentially found and nabbed Kate. So Kate did win our first ever Office Manager of the Year award in the 2021 Office Management Awards. So Kate, what did that do for you personally and professionally? I didn't know Wendy spied that, and that was her kind of final nail in the coffin to go, I'm going for her. And that's brilliant to find out, because I did, even with all the conversations we'd had, I didn't know that. So I'm really pleased that that's been revealed. But yeah, tell us more about what that was like for you.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Wendy about this kind of like just before the Office Management Awards were kind of like announced that year. And I honestly had no clue that I was going to win, literally none. And when I did, it kind of like, I think it was within 2 weeks of my winning, I moved over to Funding Circle. And everybody at my previous role was just like, oh my God, you win Office Manager of the Year award, and then you bugger off. And I'm just like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. It just, like, winning that award just gave me the confidence to go, do you know what? I know I'm done here, so I need a new challenge. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, love it.
Anyone out there who's thinking that they, like, need to go and win an award, go and do it. Seriously, I'll change your life.
So you've shared a little bit there, Wendy, in terms of some advice, and I think that was probably more around how to view the members of staff within the offices, but also for the staff to utilize and work with us and build those relationships with us as office managers. And fully agree, by the way, on that point, that I teach and I always have thought of the members of staff as my clients, or customers, as you call them. So totally agree. Are there any other tips that you would share, either of you, for new or established office managers as to how they can really nail their roles?
I think for me to be an office manager, it's like nothing. You can't just turn your nose up at things. You've just really got to dig in. It's like, I mean, last week I fixed the flush on a toilet, and it's just like, and the cleaner just looked at me like, I was just like, look, I have to get it done. And I was like, diving into that toilet, and I was just like, yeah, it's fine. Like nothing is out of your role. I get constantly amused by people who are just like, oh, it's not in my job description. And I was just like, yeah, I tore up that job description years ago. You just got to crack on and make it work. So
I think if we put your job description together, it'd probably be like telephone directory size anyway, to try and capture everything in there. But yeah, you're right, Kate. It's you can't really, in my view, to be successful at this kind of a role, you can't really be, well, that's not for me to do. But you have to see it. There are positives in all those crappy jobs, because you learn something from them, even if it's just a skill of, great, now I know I can call on Kate to fix a toilet. That's awesome. But it is, there's so much in our world.
These little nuggets that we're learning on this podcast are great, because you didn't know she did that by the sounds of it.
I know, right? I didn't know that. No. Although I'm tempted to motivate Kate with her own special toolkit now. I think that's a top tip, actually. Get yourself a toolkit.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know and keep all the widgets that you find. Like
somebody borrowed my wire cutters last week, so
yeah, that's it. And put GPS tags on all of your stuff, because it's never coming back. But it's be prepared to do anything. But from my perspective, I think it's a bit of advice. It's probably a bit trite, I've probably heard this before, but also learn how to push back and learn how to say no, because the other side of that coin of being prepared to do everything and get involved is people come to expect that of you. So you've got to have some boundaries, and if that's not something that comes naturally to you, seek out some training, even if it's just talking to someone in your network or a peer, or get your company to give you something more. But otherwise, we are really at risk of burnout in this kind of role, because we're all people pleasers. That's why we do this job, and it is hard to say no. And it was one of the best skills I probably learnt over the years. You qualify that no, you say why, you give an alternative, all of this stuff. That there's a bit free training, have that, but it's a really important skill, I think, to have. So that would be my other nugget of advice, I think.
Definitely. I think I can't remember because I share so many tips in these episodes. But I think we did a tip on that some time ago about learning how to say no without ever uttering the word no. And some of that was around, yeah, learning the why as to why you're saying no, but also the sort of pushing back and managing the expectations around, and the boundaries around what you do and how they can utilize you rather than just being the dog's body that actually does everything. I think there was someone once who came to me at one of our events they were at and said, I'm struggling because I don't do expenses for anybody. I only do them for myself because I'm not a PA anymore. And this guy's joined and he's on the exec team. He doesn't have a PA. They're meant to be self-sufficient bar the CEO. And he just keeps putting his expenses on my desk. And it was a real struggle. And I said, got to sit him down and train him and give him that time, record a video, do it with him, ask him how he learns, ask him how he takes things in. But even still, then I think she was still struggling with him. So it is very challenging. And she felt like sometimes her best option was to just do them rather than fight the good fight and try and,
Yeah.
win that battle. So yeah, it's really, really tough at times to have your boundaries and stop that burnout. Thank you so much for being on the Office Manager Diaries, both of you. It's been a really enjoyable, insightful, fun episode, and I hope our listeners agree with me there. Thank you for giving up your time.
Thank pleasure.
you.
Thank you, Hannah.
This episode is sponsored by the Office Management Portal, our free online membership platform aimed at connecting, supporting and empowering office managers in a simple-to-use, all-in-one self-service resource. You can sign up right now at www.theofficemanagementportal.com and click the sign up button in the top right. If you want to upgrade your account to our premium membership at any time for unlimited downloadable templates and monthly expert masterclasses, use the code THEOMD for 25% off. That's the THEOMD for Office Manager Diaries for 25% off. Thank you for listening.